He needs a shake.
Thank you very much again for being here. It's been 10 years in a blink of an eye. It was so hard for so long, and then all of a sudden it seemed like we just closed our eyes for 1 second, and it's been 10 years now. My little girl is not a little girl anymore. And all I can say is thank you for still remembering. Thank you for being here with us. Thank you for showing the younger generations what it means to serve and what it means to remember your fallen comrades. Let us pray. God, our Father, your power brings us to birth. Your providence guides our lives, and by your command we return to dust. Lord, those who die still live in your presence. Their lives change but do not end. I pray in hope for my family, relatives and friends, and for all the dead known to you alone, and especially for Collin today. In company with Christ, who died and now lives, may Collin and all others resting in this sacred place rejoice in your kingdom, where all our tears are wiped away. Unite us together again in one family to sing your praise forever and ever. Almighty and eternal God, protect all those who have served. Protect all those who are still serving as they discharge their duties. Protect them with the shield of your strength and keep them safe from all evil and harm. May the power of your love enable them to return home in safety, that with all who love them, they may ever praise you for your loving care. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
What about, come on, team. Where's the team at? Oh, my God. All right, Jen. How are you, sir? Who else? Is this it?
I think this is it. Tim's over here.
All right, so you got. So this is kind of like part of the original team that Collin deployed with on for the ETT mission, the embedded training team mission. So where we missed it about 6 or so, maybe. Once we got over there, we hooked up with some good guys from Vermont, I believe it was, and then as they transitioned out, we were hooked up with a bunch of guys from Chicago, from the Illinois National Guard, and Sergeant First Class Bowen was highly respected amongst all those personnel. I knew him as a peer in 2nd Platoon before we deployed as team leaders, and then later as squad leaders. And then through our deployment, we were platoon sergeant advisors to the Afghan Army, which meant that we actually were not in some kind of basic training mode, but we were fielded with the Afghan Army as they married them up to a U.S. component. It's a tougher mission than it sounds, because it was difficult with the language barrier and stuff like that. But the professionalism that Sergeant First Class Bowen showed during that period of time, I think was able to carry him well through that period, and every day, daily. I mean, if we weren't in the field, which most of the time we were, but if we were not and we were in the rear, instead of laying around on his bunk watching movies all day and stuff, he was right up there with his Afghan counterparts. It was very easy to shy away from that because it was very challenging sometimes to stay with them all day because it was such a huge cultural barrier, language, and other things. But I think he bridged that gap very well.
But sometimes, but it was great for ensuring that the things that needed to get done, getting done, and having Jeff Lowe and Chuck and Joe had the same type of drive and secrets he mentor. It was there. I mean, again, anyone that was in his chain of command, to do the job.
So I had a unique experience because I had Collin, as a second lieutenant platoon leader, I had both Collin and Chuck as squad leaders. And, 2 of your 4 squad leaders, I teamed up with Collin. Collin and I were going to be this mentor team to mentor the Afghan Army with the intent. If you didn't give 100%, you knew you were going to have to answer to him. And that's a great thing. And plain and simple, he led by example in everything he did. And I still have in my Army email account, I kept, he used to send out all those basketball emails.
He was a good guy. He was my friend. I think that's more important. He was always there for me. That's the one thing you could always count on. He had your back.
What I would say about Collin, I echo everything everybody else has said, but it's got to be reiterated as time passes. What he did over there is it was very easy to mock or ridicule the Afghans. It was very easy to think this is never going to work. There's too much corruption. There's too many problems. They don't understand my language. The culture is different. But Collin and all of us completely agreed with the mission, and the mission was to help them help themselves. And the time he spent with the soldiers, the Afghan soldiers, he didn't have to be told that. He didn't have to be directed to do that. He did that. He did the extra mile with them like he would any other American soldier, with the locals and with ways of trying to improve their lives. And as time passes, it's going to be easy for people to kind of push all this aside, being there. But what I'll remember about him and about the other people that I served with was some of the most noble things our country's ever done. We went to a country to try to help them, and Collin exemplified that. And he paid the ultimate price for that, but that should be remembered. And I hope it's remembered.
I didn't know Collin, as well as some of the others. We had sort of merged a couple of months as companies before the deployment, and then we deployed, and we were sort of peers, working on different teams. And when I got there, I had my gym. I had an incident, and so but I just remember, from my talking with him, the times that I did, and just discussing, what it takes to be, great. What is a great soldier and so forth. I always came back to the best thing was you had to be a good person. If you're a good person, then you're a good soldier. You can't be one without the other. And he was just one of the best people I've ever known, as a human being, as a person. And the thing I remember is his laugh. I just remember that laugh. It's kind of like a shaking deep. And he always had it. Like Dave said, no matter how bad it got, he always had that. You'd always have that laugh, and you're gonna get through it, and it's gonna be okay. And you knew it was gonna be. You're gonna get through it, and it was gonna be okay, because you had one of the people you had with you with Collin, and he was a good person. He was an outstanding soldier. That's what I remember.
Well, I didn't have the pleasure to know Collin before Afghanistan. I was from Iowa. I got thrown in with these knuckleheads over here, and so it was just by circumstance that we got put on the same team, and I ended up being the acting team chief, and there was just a few of us doing really awful missions, and the worse it sucked and the harder it is, the tighter you become. and the conversations and the plug and play that happens in Afghanistan with teams and people and personalities. It's like Donahoe said, the impact he had on me for knowing him for such a short time has just been incredible as an incredible human. The way he talked about his family and the stories and how proud he was of his baby girl that wasn't really a baby anymore, and the stories he talked about baseball, and everything it was just amazing. And his touch and I can't even tell you his personality. I mean, it was just, if you could create someone, that's who you would create, with that passion and that like you said, that laugh and that skill set. And he always made you feel like you were number one, whether you were Afghan or you were his boss, unless he was pissed off at you. I had the pleasure of breaking up several fights, and he was right, so I always had his back, and I always will, and he always had ours. So.
Say one thing. When Collin, we all know that when knew Collin, he liked cigars. Well, when I left there, we had a plan to come back, and these 2 cigars came from Afghanistan. They were planned on being lit when we got back to the States, but it didn't quite turn out the way we hoped. I lit one 5 years ago at the memorial in my town, and I think it's appropriate now to light the other one. And we're gonna leave them here. If somebody wants to take a puff, Chuck, I know you like to smoke, but these they've been in my drawer for 10 years, pretty much, and I just think it's appropriate time to do it. So
you don't have to have known him. Take a puff. I don't smoke.
I don't either, but I'm gonna. But we're gonna take
for
a
Collin. I'll take a puff.
I'm gonna take a puff because it's been a long time, and I think it's time we did something with it. But he liked the cigars. They named the cigar the gazebo after him with it, so everybody smoked cigars there. I ain't gonna smoke it. Light it on. There it is. All right, there you go.
You're going too deep. There you go.
Yeah, that's good shit.
He's up there laughing at you, Dan.
Yeah.
It works.
Anybody else? Thanks, Collin.
Not much of a cigar, but
That's a little dry. A little old, I guess.
I think I was lit better than this. It's been sitting for 10 years.
It's not bad though. Honey, you gotta kiss me.
Hey, I will.
But these came and not stuff.
You can go back
you
to
go.
Afghanistan. They don't know how to make cigars.
Of course I have to do it.
I couldn't get mine on that right.
I'm not a smoker at all.
Neither am I. These things give me
But I'm gonna leave them here. They're kind of dry.
I figured they would be after 10 years.
I had them for 10 years, and I said it's time to. He makes the cigars. So
Well, I know all my Blaker brothers frickin' smoke.
No, I didn't. I'm very impressed.
How about you?
That was not lit.
Can't get it lit.
It's been in there for 10 years. All I can tell you.
I saw you. So how are you doing?
Very interesting life.
I bet it is.
How are things with you?
But he doesn't.
He just retired. I'm good, you're done.
Slow down to
Look, I only gained 8 pounds. Offense already. That's
So yeah, but that's nice meeting. Just take shine. It's fine.
And then we're going to open the portfolio on the one.
Sorry, hey Colin,
Together.
for you, brother. All right, anyway, easy come, easy go. It's better than a cigar.
Good to go. I'm good.
That's a burn.
Thank you.
That's a good burn. Anybody like one?
Warm you right up.
Cigar
gonna have to dry.
Hey, what?
Tell me I gotta go.
I don't get it.
It's all right.
You cool, buddy? Yeah, go in the car. Go play an iPad. See you, bud. What is that? Somebody told me that. I'm actually going to check it. The only person that was at the time. Oh, by the way, my extra team is just got to get on the report meeting. Yeah, no cigarettes. So, it's always and you know.
Thank you so much, sir. You're welcome. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
De nada, ¿qué país es usted?
Colombiano.
Colombiano. Perdón que
Gracias por estar aquí.
yo soy cubano.
Tengo amigos cubanos.
¿Sí? ¿Dónde es usted?
Sí, en Fairfax Station.
Ok.
¿Usted?
Yo vivo aquí en Frederick, en Maryland.
Oh, siempre un poquito lejos, ¿verdad? Gracias por venir.
Esta buena.
Be safe.
Gracias. Que Dios vaya contigo.
Thank you for having us. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Take care. Yes. You want to stop?
Why didn't you buy it here?
I do.
Why didn't you call me?
Well, I got it.
No, but I get Thank you.
Not all right. Okay, we'll get some try. You know when the angry guys running around the bikes? Nah, your comment. I don't think so.
No, you can't make that. Personality differences were all just so, and the experience. Yeah, you know, some things we did, which is, that term is stupid.
We were gonna do a coin and say, you know,
ETT's 2007, 2008, you can't make this shit.
Oh, man.
And I started initially when I started doing it. I was kind of reluctant.
Oh, I bet.
2 years later, I was having a rough time. A lot of guys.
Oh, I had a rough time too. I went back and.
I got him in the corner there, Colin.
There she is.
To do all four by Go ahead, Gail Brook.
Come on, right here.
But I have a broken there. Check. Good. 9.
Ready? Yeah, look at Mom. Brooke, look at me. Yes. Thank you, because... Okay, come on, get behind. Look up.
Look at me, buddy. Look at me. 1, 2, 3. Again. And one more.
Hey, you thought I was
Hey, I saw you take 3, so I took 3. I know how to take a cue.
Hey, yeah.
All right.
You going to victory?
He's loving. One more. I took 3 as well.
Jump in here.
Wait, one for me. Go ahead.
Pick out the oldest.
I'll see you at the work.
Love you. No, we gotta.
Yeah, I'm taking them back, and then it was good to see it. I wanted to, I got all kinds of stories, but but it was like I just knew him for a short period. But E6 Mafia, I wanted to bust that out. But I did. He was good.